Okay, this is the 4th of July edition of Ask a Special Education Attorney. I can't sit there and say I'm in festive gear. I'm always in this stuff, and it all has meaning. If any of you have, any kind of weird fascination with history, but both of these, which you've seen me wear before, if you watch prior videos, I love history, so therefore these things have a very significance. To me, and my wife, we both sort of political history junkies and current events, those kind of things. So even so much that we named our children after uh, a mixture of family and historical. So I'm not going to get into what I named my children and why, but I guess if you're interested, you can always ask, and I'll let you know. But those things we believe are important, and so therefore, this is the Bunker Hill flag, and this one is called the Taunton flag, Taunton. Okay, significant during the Revolutionary War. All right, let's get to this question. Will a school system have to honor an IEP if a parent chooses digital learning? I have no idea what to do, and the school system is only giving us a few more days to decide. Help. Okay. Yes, they'll honor your, well, it just depends, guys. I mean, when you say honor the IEP, it depends on how your IEP is developed in the first place. Okay. Now, I have said this, and I know it's a complex thing for parents to wrap their head around, because you're getting into like I'm talking about, deep diving into special education law and the entire analysis of a free and appropriate public education and the legal duty that a school system has to a individual child, um, and to the parents who also have their own rights. Um, Along with their children encased in the Individual with Disabilities Education Act. So there's a lot of complex nooks and crannies, and that's the reason that I do what I do. This is not an easy area of law, guys. Um, it's a complex area, and the reason it's complex and few of us do this is you know, just the sheer amount of unknowns, gray areas, corners, and I said it before, the nooks and crannies. You can't ever speak in absolutes when you're dealing with this area of law, because it just doesn't work that way. Okay, and so you sort of really got to understand it, um, to the nth degree, in order to know how to effectively navigate it from a education attorney standpoint. Does a school need to understand it that way? Does a parent need to understand it that way? Not necessarily, okay? Because I can tell you right now that if the schools and the parent work together to, and in good faith, to design a good IEP with the child and their individualized needs in mind, and it was absent all those human things that make us not good people, the selfish motives, the motives to protect the institution, naming the school, whatever motive the parent may have, that, and there's going to be a few parents that, quite frankly, border on having, I'm not going to say it, but some of the parents are problems, guys. Some of the parents, um, their selfish motivation is what they get out of constant mayhem and constant conflict. And you sit there and you go, well, yes, guys, it's sick, but a lot of humans are broken. And a lot of humans, instead of being able to think rationally, um, whatever it is in their lives that broke them, they end up manifesting upon other people, their children, their spouse, their employer. And it goes the other way. If our institutions are broken, meaning that they're being led currently by people that have power issues, you know, Those just don't come out of nowhere, guys. I mean, people gravitate into areas where they tend to, it's more about them. So you look around and it just is, we got a whole bunch of broken adults out there, and they just happen to be in positions of decision making, and that includes the parent, to where that is why things like this just don't work like they're intended to. Okay. And so you really got to check yourself, and you really got to self-analyze in order to, and I'm talking constant, guys. I really have to exercise that. Every human should, where you're constantly checking yourself to making sure that your motives are pure, and that the reason you're doing things isn't for you, but for the child, your child, or the child that the school system has to work with. And that balance, that relationship, guys, that's 90% of the problem in education law. It really is. And so, you sit there and you go, well, that should be easy. You're exactly right. It should be. Because if we have a good working relationship as an IEP team, and it's built upon honesty and transparency and working together collaboratively, then yes, a FAPE can be provided. And so all of those extra piccadillys that are back there don't need to be understood completely. The reason I need to understand every layer of the onion, guys, is because when there is a conflict, I need to understand how to win it. Okay? Because that's what I do. I'm an attorney, and so I've got to understand what the analysis is, and I've got to understand, why this law, or why this particular aspect of the regulation, means this or that. Okay. You don't need to do that if your IEP team is working like it should. Okay. So when it comes to answering the question, though, it depends on how the IEP was developed in the first place. And if your IEP team hasn't developed an IEP, but yet they're giving you some kind of option beforehand, that's not good. It's not good for your school system. Okay. Now, why is that? Because in my viewpoint, even if it's during this COVID crisis, if they're giving you an option before developing the IEP, then it's the same as sort of predetermination. Okay. And even though it's predetermining on the feeling and the aspect of what the parent is wanting, okay, great. But now the school system's on the hook for that, because they've made a determination that this is what FAPE is going to be for this child. And quite frankly, it may not be what FAPE is. Okay, because there's two different considerations here. Can your child benefit and make measurable, tangible progress in a virtual learning setting? Can they, or can they not? And that's an honest question for you as a parent. Now, whether you choose to do virtual learning because you are scared, afraid, have concerns, have anxiety about your child's health, there's going to be and I'm going to say it, guys, there's going to be a rare number of you that truly has a child that fits into the definitions of a high-risk group, where a medical professional will stand up and defend that in the form of a letter recommending that the school make a determination with regards to the child's placement that's different than a traditional school setting. That is rare. Rare, rare, rare. Okay? Now, the remaining, it's going to be more based upon those unknowns that are out there. Who do you believe? I have concerns. I've got, I've got to take care of my aging grandparent that is in a high-risk group. And so therefore we don't want to have, there's very logical reasons, and I'm not disputing any of those. I'm just saying that don't blame it on the child. There are multiple reasons why parents are going to make a decision to continue with virtual learning. At the same time, is that smart for a school to recognize and develop the IEP for virtual learning? I don't think it is. Now, why is that? Because schools are open. and if schools are open. And at that point, please remember that this is just according to James Galini. And I've had discussions with board attorneys, and I'm telling you, with regards to that analysis of law, unless the state, your state creates some different rules, there's no waivers from the federal government. And if there's no waivers from the federal government, then the standard of a free and appropriate public education remains the same. It's left unchanged. And at that point, the issue becomes, is the district capable of providing your child with a free and appropriate public education through a virtual format? And it would be a different analysis in the spring, because during the spring it impacted all children. All children are in the same boat. In the fall, that is not going to be the case. You're going to have a mixture. And if the opportunity was there for the school system to provide your child with a free and appropriate public education in a traditional school environment, which most are going to have that capability, and most are going to be in that position because the state health orders are going to change, guys. And they're going to change over the next couple months quite rapidly. And I think in the direction of reopening. Okay, so that's just my prediction. And if that's the case, then there's going to be a lot of schools that get themselves in hot water by developing an IEP based upon what parent preference is, instead of based upon what a FAPE looks like. And what a FAPE looks like is not necessarily, by and large, what the parent preference is of distant learning or continuing with virtual learning. So what should they do? There's going to be a lot of changes over the next school year, okay? Is my prediction. And it could be a situation where we reopen and close, reopen, whatever. But it's a situation to where there must be a continuity. The school system has 100% of the duty to provide a free and appropriate public education. The school district has that duty, not you as the parent. So if they bend before even designing the IEP to a parent's desire that I get, I want virtual learning, and that IEP is developed for virtual learning, and then the child doesn't make measurable progress, the school system could find themselves in a very difficult spot because they did not provide a FAPE when they had the capability to provide a FAPE. And the parent does not dictate what that FAPE is, because the parent doesn't hold the legal duty to provide the FAPE. That falls with the government agency receiving the funding. A parent is 50% of the decision-making process, but at the same time, please understand, parents, the school system holds the legal duty, not you. So that IEP should be developed by the IEP team with the mindset and with the goal that this is what a FAPE looks like, and it should be developed if your school is reopening in a traditional format within the confines and limitations of whatever the state health order. If it's fully open, if there's a capability of fully providing that, then that's how you should be designing your IEP. And then at the end, you should notate that this is what a FAPE is. It's a traditional school environment. This is what we think is going to help the child make tangible, measurable progress. And then after that, just notate in the IEP that because of COVID, that we are selecting, that the parent is selecting a virtual option. Because what that does is it helps both of you, okay? Don't try to set up your school. Don't sit there and lay in wait. That this is a disaster. And a lot of our school personnel and administrators are not going to be advised properly. And so they're going to make a lot of mistakes trying to placate and trying to be all things to all people. When in reality, what we need is a captain of a ship that is establishing a continuity. All this stuff that's going on is temporary. This COVID stuff's happening. It's temporary. It's going to go away, guys. We need continuity. We need a leader. We need a captain to sit there and say, this is the way we're going. And that is what FAPE is. Establish what that is. So that whatever storm comes about, if they reclose, they reopen, if they sit there and quarantine some, group or classroom, guys, you have something this is your foundation. And then all the IEP team has to come back and do, because the foundation of FAPE is there, is make adjustments per whatever the stormy waters are. So that's what I recommend you do. Create a normal IEP. And then after you create a normal IEP as though COVID didn't exist, then at that point, then you notate in the prior written notice that I, as the parent, are choosing this option here, virtual option. It allows for flexibility of the team at that point, you see. With whatever happens, you don't have to go back to the drawing board, because let's say that by September, October, COVID just isn't a thing. Our death rates continue to go down. That is a positive. Don't really care about that. I'm watching the death rate. Getting a lot better about saving people, guys. A lot better. Besides that, I don't even know what it's so inconsistent what being positive is. I mean, I'm catching wind that the contact tracers are also adding numbers artificially to people that just, sit there and report they don't feel. These numbers aren't that reliable. People dying, that's reliable because it's happening. But if those numbers continue to go down, that's good news. So what I'm saying is, leave yourself in a position to where you can sit there and pivot quickly, and pivot the minute you need to. How do you do that? By creating a traditional IEP as though none of this is happening. And then you make adjustments. But you don't sit there and base your IEP upon an unknown of virtual learning, as though that's what you're going to be doing all school year. Because what happens if, like I said, poof, it's gone? Well, then you're sitting there going, well, I need an IEP meeting because now I need to integrate my child back into the school system. What, now all of a sudden you're going to go back and try to create an IEP from a virtual option over to this option? I wouldn't do it that way, guys. I recommend that you create your IEP. Then you notate in the prior written notice that you're choosing this alternative option, with the knowledge that the IEP team will review it every so often, and per the changes of the health order and per the preference of the parent. And at that point, you've now safeguarded your IEP, both from a school standpoint and from a parental standpoint. That is truly the goal of the IEP team, is to work together, to work collaboratively. That's collaboration. That's collaboration. And I know that it may be odd for you to go and approach your IEP team that, hey, we need to set up an IEP as though COVID didn't exist. But you would be doing them a favor, guys. Don't set your IEP team up, okay? They're not going to be advised like you're being advised. Okay, you guys have a good consigliere in me. Be good. Be better. Calm down. Think reasonable about this. Use logic. And understand that that's what we need to do to work together. Establish an IEP as though no COVID exists. And then from there, notate the preference. Okay? Happy 4th.